Manufacturing Week. Today's topic is advanced manufacturing. We're going to talk about career pathways. What is advanced manufacturing? What are the essential skills and the academic skills required to have a job and a career in this STEM field? And we're lucky we have three regional um, partners that are going to share their experiences, talk to our students at CFES Brilliant Pathways on all the essential skills, mentoring programs that they may have in their companies, and give advice to our students on how they can be successful if they have interest in this type of STEM pathway. Um, I'm Chris Mazzella. I am the STEM coordinator for CFES. I'm a retired high school principal from Peru Central School and started out as a physics teacher and a basketball coach. And my degrees are in math and physics. So, I'm partial to STEM and math and science and technology and engineering. But I also believe that there are great career opportunities for students to participate with their educational experiences and have great opportunities to have fulfilling jobs. I want to introduce our panelists today. We have Scott McNulty. He is the Vice President of Engineering and Manufacturing at Elsu Drives. It is a company over in Potsdam, New York. Zane Adams, he is the Plant Manager for SSF here in Plattsburgh on the Schluter campus. And we also have Eric Zeisloff. He is the CFO of Moldrite Plastics here in Plattsburgh. Gentlemen, thank you so much for participating and sharing your wisdom with our students. Before we get into the nitty gritty of questions, I would like if you could each of us give each of your own pathway to where your careers and some of the changes that happened in your life to put you where you are. Scott, I'm going to start with you. If you could talk a little bit about your pathway and how you ended up as an engineer.
Sure. So I actually grew up in Malone, New York. Without a lot of mentorship or direction, and I was always interested in how machines work, tearing things apart, not necessarily successful putting them back together, but always trying to learn and fix things. And I got a job at 14 doing some service work at a small engine repair shop, and that just kind of helped my desire for machines. And I ended up just kind of lucked out and decided to go to college for mechanical engineering. And after college, I was a design engineer for about 10 years. I had a knack for designing things that were very difficult to actually build and produce. And through that, I got stuck trying to build them and have worked our way up the manufacturing of things that are difficult to make. And since then, after I started working, I've gone back to school and gotten a master's in engineering paid for by one company and an MBA paid for by another company I worked for.
As I recall, I got some inside information. You had a little bit of a deviation in your career at one point.
I did maybe 10 years ago now. I thought I might want to be a restaurateur and a chef, so I quit my job and got a job in a restaurant for about a year. Had a lot of fun, learned a lot. One of the most important things I learned is I do not want to be a restaurateur.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's neat. That's a cool pathway. Eric, can you give us some insight on your pathway?
Yeah, so I earned my industrial engineering degree from Penn State. I'm a Pennsylvania native. After school, I actually specialized in foundry work, metallurgy and foundry work. So I had the vision to be a foundry guy my entire career. Actually went to work for a foundry my first 2 years out of college. Things weren't going well with that company, so I moved on and ended up making plastic bottles for 20 years with a company based out of York, Pennsylvania. Did a variety of jobs. Started out there as a production supervisor. Did a variety of jobs in those 20 years, up to and including I was a regional director for a while. The last position I held with that company was a director of engineering for one of the business units. I had 26 plants in that business unit. So I traveled all across the country, all over the world, at various plants, doing different things. And then about 5.5 years ago, I had the unique opportunity to come to Plattsburgh and take on the vice president of operations role here at Moldrite Plastics. So it's been very challenging. We've been growing. We'll talk a little bit more about the company later, but we've been growing over 12% each year. for the almost 6 years that I've been here. So it's been quite a challenge.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a great pathway. Mr. Adams.
Yes, Zane Adams, production manager at SSF, affiliated with Schluter. I too, I started out college and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started off as computer science major at Potsdam State, and then that wasn't for me, and so I went into the sciences. I always found science fascinating, and I went on to Oswego State, and then I took a brief detour. My family opened up a restaurant also, so I managed the kitchen for a year, the homestead. I grew up in Chazy, and so we opened up the homestead in Plattsburgh. Did that for a year. Then I went back to school. They sold the restaurant, went back to school. And then when I got out of school, I was fortunate to get hired by a chemical company, Antikemia Chemicals. To Roz's point, I wanted to pursue the chemistry field. And I did that for 7-8 years. And I said, I want to try the biological. And so I went pharmaceutical. I worked for Wyeth Research in the toxicology department, running studies. Studies on involving animals and the dosing, the dosages, determining the whole pipeline for compounds. And then Pfizer bought Wyeth in 2010, and I didn't want to relocate, so I reinvented myself and saw an upstart young company, SSF and Schluter, and became production manager here. And we've been growing by leaps and bounds here. And so I went from chemistry to, I was fortunate running a team right out of college there, and then at Wyeth, and then now at SSF.
Okay. So lots of different pathways, lots of different careers. Things change in your lives, and you're able to adjust and modify how you do that at CFBS. We call that agility, and you certainly have all demonstrated that skill. Before we get into talking more about, some of the essential skills that students are going to need in some of our programs, I think many young students don't really know what advanced manufacturing is. So as we continue to talk about this, they may not have a grasp of what it is and what it looks like. So I'm going to ask each of the three of you, if you can just give us a little insight. What is the plant? What does the facility look like? What do you do as compared to these old images of factory work that are loud and noisy and dirty? What does advanced and clean manufacturing look like? Zane, I'm going to go right back to you.
Well, the best way I can describe it is what I always stress wherever I was. It's you have productivity, you have safety, and you have maintenance. And they all have to walk hand in hand. And one can't walk out in front of the other. Or you can't just focus on productivity and not have safety. You got to look out for your people legally. And plus, nobody wants to see any injuries, right? It's not good for business. And cleanliness, being organized, that's all part of safety. And maintenance, you got to maintain the equipment, because without the equipment, you're not producing. And then it's productivity, maintaining your numbers. So it's teamwork, and it's that foundation. So a clean environment, being organized, and then individuals pick up on that, and being in touch with your employees. And I think the days of, I think we've all read stories about the turn of the century, the Triangle waste fire, and crowded, cramped quarters, and filthy environment, and long hours without breaks, and so forth. And that just leads to unhealthy environment. And what you want is a healthy environment, and that's.
What does SSF manufacture, Zane?
Foam underlayment for laminate flooring, and foam for Curdy board, which is one of the top sellers for Schluter. Curdy board is the foam board that goes in the showers that you tile over. It used to be, back in the day, green sheetrock, mold and mildew resistant. Now it's the foam board. And Schluter's taken it up a notch where they have CNC machines that cut out there's different thickness of boards, so they make benches, pre-make benches for the showers, dishes. That's where you put your soap and your shampoo. And so all that foam is made by us.
Okay. All right.
Foam extrusion process.
Okay. Scott, LC drives and manufacturing in your end of the world.
Yeah, so a lot of the same things that were just brought up, right, from safety, from a cleanliness standpoint, from making sure that we're just keeping everyone safe. So there's legal requirements, and then there's going above and beyond and making sure that everyone's being taken care of here, trying to send everybody home at the end of the day safely while still getting product out the door. So just to show some of the organizational stuff, if you can see my screen here.
Yep.
It's part of the organization on the left here. So these are the tools that go into some of our manufacturing steps. Everything's labeled. Part of advanced manufacturing, lean manufacturing, is making sure that you get the right tool at the right place at the right time. We do some inspection and measurements, so it's not just put these things together and push quality problems down the line. We make sure that we're doing the right things at the front end to make sure that everyone's stage is good as we pass these along. We do a lot of welding and machinery operation as well. So there's a lot of safety things that go with that, and environmental concerns with chemicals and those kind of things. So it's really making sure that all that ties out together and is making things right. Picture on the right here, this is a portion of one of the large electric motors we built. This is the inside. You can see the copper windings are in there. This is a big fixture. This whole thing is about as tall as I am. And with this, there's electromagnets on this. There is liquid cooled assembly fixture. There's high pressure air lines on this thing. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of things. A lot of training goes into this, and largely a lot of teamwork. So most of our processes have more than one person. Here's just a picture of this is a motor coming off the final assembly fixture on the left. You can see there's 2 or 3 people involved. That motor is about 1,200 pounds of weight, so it's a big, heavy motor. We sell these for $70,000 to $100,000 roughly. And then they go down to test on the right-hand side. So we take those motors that we built up. We make sure that they're working efficiently, that they're getting the right power output for what we'd expect. We do all that in-house. So from sourcing the parts, buying things, all the way through assembly, test as we go through the process, and then final test and acceptance test before we can ship it out to a customer.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that looks a little bit different than traditional images of what a factory might be. Thank you. Eric, how about Mold-Rite?
Yeah, so Mold-Rite Plastics makes caps for bottles and containers primarily. We do a few jars and containers as well, but it's primarily caps. And anytime we do an orientation, I always talk to our new employees, and I said I could probably go in any one of your homes and find one of our products in your homes. Because we do pharmaceutical caps, so for medicines, cleaners, food container caps, just a wide variety of caps come out of our plant. We're going to do about 5.5 billion caps this year out of this plant, so it's very, very high volume business. It's the same thing as the other two guys have said. Because we do pharmaceutical and we do food products or containers for food products as well, our plant has to be very clean and organized. Nobody wants to open up a container and find a hair in it or something like that. So we actually maintain a food safe certification, FDA certifications, and so on and so forth, to make sure that our products that come out of our plant and go into your homes are free of any kind of debris and are nice and clean to be used. So with that, I just want to show a little video that kind of shows what our company does.
Okay. I'll tell you that was very insightful.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's easier to show. Just one of the key points I'd like to make is, as you saw in that video, when we talk about advanced manufacturing, especially some high tech stuff, so some of the things we do aren't really necessarily that high tech, but we do have a lot of automation in the plant that's taking the parts out of the machine, which require a different degree of technical savvy. You could see in the one shot when I was talking about quality, we have an automated measuring system that measures our caps and makes sure that the quality is good. So within our facility, we have a wide range of both low tech and high tech things going on at any given time.
so, looking at all three of these facilities, you know, you have to have a lot of high quality employees. You have to have people who have, you know, certain skills in technical areas, but you also have to have people who have skills in, what we call at CFES, the essential skills. You know, talking to our students today, what are some of the key essential skills that, you can encourage them to develop, regardless whether they go to a STEM career, an advanced manufacturing career, but just as they grow and learn about what they want to study and move on, what advice can you give our students? Scott?
Yeah, sure. So for us, we have about 100 employees right now, and a year ago at this time, we had about 20 employees, so we're growing very rapidly. And one thing I tell people when we're looking for new employees or interviewing people is how comfortable they are, the agility standpoint. We say that people here wear a lot of different hats. So if you come in here at any level of the organization, you'll have many different jobs in a given day, typically, right? And we change priorities because we're a relatively a new company that's just we're still doing a lot of testing and figuring things out. So a big portion for me is being able to do a lot of things. And then just to the point of, whether it's an entry level job in assembly or the VP of manufacturing, a big thing for us is, doing your job and doing your job right. Because it seems, and we just mentioned there's all kinds of low tech and high tech things. But the very first step of any process, right, is getting good materials into the process. So a mistake anywhere can be carried all the way through, and for us, that could damage a $100,000 motor. I know if you're looking at medical or any kind of food industry, that can be a huge problem if you have quality issues you find down the road. So really, I look at the skills here, and perseverance is a huge thing to stay on task and make sure we're executing what the plans are and make sure every job is being done well.
Okay. Zane, what are some of the most essential skills that you think? I know earlier you had mentioned teamwork.
Yeah, for me, start with work ethic. And work ethic incorporates a lot of things that have already been mentioned. But you showed me somebody that wants to work, and I think everybody, all people involved with, if you're looking at hiring people or you see people on the floor, if you have someone with pep in their step, eager to learn, reliable, doesn't miss work, takes pride in what they do. Take pride in what you do. That's part of work ethic, right? Given 110%. And I think back in the day, I had more chores as children, I think, growing up. And now the less and less chores. So I think that you have a lot of individuals that weren't taught about doing a job and doing it right, possibly, and having that opportunity. So just having that open-mindedness to, when you approach a job, to give it your best, 110%, and no matter what it is. That's how I was taught. Whether you're sweeping the floor or doing it, do it the best of your ability.
Thank you. One of the things that, before I have Eric jump in on the essential skills, all of your companies will teach and train all of your employees. So, one of the most essential skills would probably being a lifelong learner, being willing to continue to learn, whether it's a math skill that you need to calibrate a machine, or if it's just a new job and a new system or whatever. Eric, what would you add to that as far as when you're looking at employees for essential skills?
Yeah, so the nice thing about going last is you guys have already said it all. But no, so work ethic is super important. Like Zane pointed out, that's one of the things that's most important to me, and those are definitely skills that can be learned in high school, college, technical school, even in the military, if that's how people choose to go. That work ethic and paying attention to what you're doing and continuing to learn. Continuing to learn is super important to us. We bring a lot of people in at entry level. I have countless employees here that have tripled their salary in a course of years. In some cases, just because they've continued to learn, they've continued to grow, they've found their niche in the plant, and then they take it one step further. So I think that hard work ethic, paying attention to what they do, the ability and the desire to want to learn and improve yourself, that's what we strive to look for in our employees. We bring in basic level people with just a high school education, and we also have people who have doctorates in different things peppered throughout our company, and all things in between. So, but it's really those characteristics that make our employees super successful.
That's actually a really good lead in. One of the things to run a facility like you all three have and you work within, there's a job scope from people who will have a high school diploma all the way up to PhDs. Scott, what are some of the skills, as far as not essential skills, but what are some of the skills that students can think about getting a job at a place like LC Drives, as far as whether it's welding or what kind of technician, and what kind of academic skills will they need?
Sure. So I think it's obviously a very broad spectrum. Just to tag on to what Eric said, we have a huge training matrix for different skills, or we bring people in maybe for one specific role, and as they want to grow, they can cross train and other things. We can check status where people are. Obviously, the more skills you have, the more your pay increases, and then promotions to line leads and things. So there's a broad area that you can start with and keep moving up. The skills for us, because we're building, there's a lot of hands-on work. So we have starting positions or advanced positions for all kinds of areas and hands-on skills, really to tinker, build things, work with hand tools, welding, brazing, electronics, a lot of computer things as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a college degree or advanced degree, just a comfort level with these things that we can start training from, and maybe an initial direction to start heading down a training path with someone. Those are all big things. Also, with all these companies, there's the manufacturing side of making parts, troubleshooting, solving problems, getting things out the door. And the same point, we're a growing company. We have HR roles of how do we recruit people, how do we get them in. We have finance to make sure the business is making money, make sure people get paychecks. There's a lot of ancillary things too that don't necessarily have to be technically minded for us, but we still need a whole organization to make the company work. So really, almost anything. Right? And like Eric, we have high school grads up through PhDs in different roles. Leans a lot more on the high school to 2-year degree, 4-year degree than the PhD side. But really, there's a role for just about anything. The excitement for me is to get someone who's passionate about what they're doing, find something you like, and get in it. And that also helps along with the work ethic, right? If you can find a job, we try to find a job that someone is good at, that they like to do. If you like it and you're good at it, you'll want to do it, right? You're not looking at the clock, trying to clock out at 4 o'clock, or excited and engaged.
Zane, you and I have talked in the past about how you set up your work teams in the facility. You kind of created somewhat of a mentoring program. At CFES, we really emphasize mentoring and giving kids the experience to connect with people, to learn about the essential skills, but also to look at pathways and look to find what careers that they may be interested in. Talk to us a little bit about mentoring and how you do that with your younger employees and more senior employees.
Well, we try to promote family environment. What I mean by that is we're in a unique situation. We're smaller than yes, the Schluter campus has 300. My little niche, we have 30 to 40. So I'm out on the floor. I'm saying good morning to these guys. And all our manager. I'm part of a management team of, we have the plant manager, production manager, technical manager, safety manager, and we are interacting with everybody daily, and problem solving together, and because it's making everybody's opinion important, valuable. What you never know where that perspective, where that new idea or that new approach will come from. and it's through different perspectives. As far as mentoring, you have young kids, young adults coming in, and often their confidence, they don't have their confidence or whatever. So just working side by side with them, trotting the same earth, let's say, and going through the same problems, and talking to them, not necessarily about work, but touching base about if you get to know them, so you know, oh, so and so is a Yankee fan, and oh, there was a good game. Hey, the Yankees played a good game, so you're connecting. You're connecting. It's not, I'm up here. My office is we have an open door policy, so anybody can approach any of us at any time if they have a concern, and which is important too, because the view that we have as managers isn't often the view you want to see the view inside from the perspective of the employee. And if they're open and honest with you, if they feel comfortable with you, they'll come and they'll enlighten you about certain things that they're seeing, and which can help us productivity wise, safety wise, maintenance wise.
Okay, thank you. Eric, at the beginning of the week, we talked about two-year colleges and their role in supporting manufacturing careers in their area. And obviously we have Clinton Community College, and you had talked earlier about a lot of technicians that you have to have, maintenance and things. What is the scope of careers that you have? You mentioned high school to PhD, but some of the technical things where if a student says, I want to stay local, I do want to go to college, how can companies like yours and advanced manufacturing bridge that gap for students who can, stay local, go to a local school, and still work in a facility?
Yeah, we actually do. We actually do a lot of work with Clinton Community College, and we actually hire quite a few people that come out of their technical programs. For us, a lot of times that's kind of a perfect lead-in. A lot of people maybe can't afford to or are not interested in going to a 4-year college to earn a bachelor degree. A lot of times these 2-year associate degrees from the local colleges are super effective. And what we've found is we tend to bring those people. A lot of times we'll have those people working in our facility at say a lower level job while they're going to school, and then as they're taking that schooling and as they graduate out of that program, they develop the skills that then it's very, very easy for us to move them into a technical role. I've got several people in the plant right now that actually earned their degrees while they were working here. We work with them on their schedule so that they can attend our classes. And then, we even go as far as for some people that are taking school kind of full time during the week, we offer weekend work for certain people to help just on the weekend. But those kind of technical degrees really give people a foot up into moving into one of our technical positions. And what we found is that education is really vital to being able to kind of put them on an accelerated path in their career.
Okay, thank you. Scott, earlier you had mentioned after you finished your degree, you went to work for a company and they paid for your master's degree, so you could continue to advance. Do any of your companies help support employees with extending their education?
So we have a program right now. You have to be an employee for 1 year, and then with your manager's approval, basically it means you have to be doing a good job at your job before we'll start paying for you to take on additional work. We do all offer tuition reimbursement, so people can take a couple of classes per year toward a degree. We have the stipulation that it does have to be something in line with what we do for a company, but that's still pretty broad. It could be technical, it could be finance, it could be HR. We're unlikely to pay for an art history degree, probably, from the standpoint of manufacturing company. But and we have several people that are taking advantage of that. Similar to Eric just mentioned, we bring in co-ops and interns from the vocational school. We do a lot with St. Lawrence, BOCES, just because of the proximity, but we're certainly not limited to that. Canton up for about a 2-year degree, it's a 4-year degree stuff in Clarkson. And a lot of those people, when they come in and do an internship for the summer or co-op over a semester, if they did good work, we try and get them to work part-time also while they're going back to school. So it actually helps them pay for some of their schooling when they go back. Sometimes on the weekend, if it's work they can do offline, which we're getting better at because of COVID restrictions. We do offer that as well, trying to retain people and get full-time hires and then push them into getting their schooling paid for. And that's not only for college graduates. We'll do that. That's available to any of our employees.
Scott, for our younger students who are logged in here, can you explain to them what a co-op or an internship is?
Sure. So if we take, we'll just take an engineering student, for example, right now. We will allow people to do it after their sophomore year, but we like someone after junior year because your skills are a little bit better, typically. But we'll take someone for just the summer when you're out from school and try to get that person in a role similar to what they're going to school for. So if you're going to school for mechanical engineering like I did, you could come in here and work on process engineering or machine design or manufacturing engineering. I actually did a co-op up in Rouse's Point at Wyeth Thirst when I was a student. Probably with Zane, I don't know, but and there's a couple things. We try and explore different areas of mechanical engineering or any major is a pretty broad spectrum, basically, right? And we try to expose students to different areas they might be interested in. We get to try them out for 3 or 4 months for an internship. A co-op is actually for a summer and a semester, so we'll start in say June this summer and finish all the way to the end of the year, and then you delay graduation by a semester typically, but you get a lot more experience. It helps us. We use it as a way to get a long-term interview and see if we want to retain someone full-time after they graduate. It helps the students understand, get a much deeper immersion into what's going on in an actual factory or design house or wherever you end up, as opposed to just the academic side, and help them decide what they want to do. Our goal is not to give people co-ops just to give them experience. Our goal is to find people that are right fit we can then convert to full-time permanent employees after graduation.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, and just like we mentioned on my restaurant endeavor at the beginning of this meeting, I think it's equally as beneficial to find things you don't want to do through a co-op or an internship, so you know what not to go do after you graduate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes the best jobs are the ones that you didn't like, so you know to go on a different pathway and find your passion at that. All of you, I think, at some point in time have probably participated in Manufacturing Day over here in Clinton County, and kind of sponsored through the North Country STEM Network in one way, shape, or form. I think it maybe started 8 to 10 years ago. One of the things within that, students get an opportunity to either go visit a facility or go to Clinton Community College and see presentations. Is it likely that students can do job shadows if they're still in high school to see what it's like for a day or maybe even a half a day at a facility like yours, so they can get a better grasp if they want to be a technician, an engineer, maybe a plant manager, whatever it happens to be? Anybody can take that one.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with the various schools, middle schools, high schools. We've had Boy Scout groups in here, and we've taught robotics classes to the colleges. So those are all programs that we're capable of doing and have done. COVID kind of slowed us down a little bit. Nobody wants to either come into a factory, nor do we really want a group of 20 students coming through either.
Right.
I had to lock the doors a little bit, but once this thing clears, those are all programs that we've had in place at Waldrite and will continue to.
Okay, that's awesome, Zane.
Yeah, we've had some interns and with the RAMP program, like I mentioned, we're open. We haven't had anyone shadow for a short period of time because we're looking more for getting someone in there for a little longer period of time, training them because it takes to get them up to speed and then seeing if it's something that they like. But we're open to once COVID is finished and we get through this, we're open to other avenues.
Okay, so we're getting close to closing this out, but I do want to touch base on one topic. What academic advice can you give students? There are a lot of students who love to work with their hands, who are good critical thinkers, they're agile, but school's just not their thing. Or you have students who absolutely love school, and they can do calculus and physics and whatnot. Can you throw out any academic advice to our kids that you learned along your pathway?
Well, I'll start off. I look at. Well, I wasn't particularly strong in math when I was a kid. I liked science. I didn't mind school, but I just wasn't great at math, and I decided I wanted to go to school for mechanical engineering, which doesn't seem like the best decision when you're not strong at math. But not letting my first year was very tough for me, and look at my notes here on perseverance was I got a lot of help. I asked for help. I asked TAs for help. I got help from roommates and friends, and I got over the hump over the first 1 or 2 semesters and got caught up with everyone else, and my schooling didn't provide me with as good of a math background as I would have liked. I didn't let that stop me from getting what I wanted to do. And after the first year, it was, you get caught up and it wasn't that bad. So one of the big things I have is ask for help, right? There's lots of people available to help. As you see, you can get people to mentor, get on phone calls like this, tutoring. There's all kinds of opportunities, but they don't always present themselves. So sometimes you have to go after them and go find the help where you can.
That's great advice. And as a high school principal, I heard that so much. Oh, I hate math. Why am I doing algebra? I can't stand this. I see Mrs. Lapierre's on our call. But you can't let something that you don't like or you struggle with inhibit you from what you really want to do. That's great advice, Scott. Zane?
I loved what Scott said because to me, that's all with work ethic. And we all come across hurdles in life. And the difference between successful and unsuccessful individuals is not that successful people don't fail. They do fail. They don't quit. And so they'll go under that hurdle. They'll go over the hurdle. They'll go around the hurdle. They'll get by that hurdle no matter what. That's the key to it. So back to your initial question about getting a job and experience. Well, 2 facets. If schooling isn't your thing, you try it out and you can go to school, but get practical, hands-on experience. There's plenty of places. Eric and Scott just gave examples in our place that you can work and go to school at the same time. Go to school part-time. It's not a race. Education. You don't have to be done. I think often young adults feel, okay, I'll have my bachelor's by the time I'm 21. I'll have my master's by the time I'm 24 or whatever, and then PhD. It's not a race. Everybody marches to their own beat, and there's different time frames and whatever. But not gathering knowledge, whether it's hands-on or in a classroom, that's what you should be striving for, and whatever suits you as an individual.
Thank you. Eric, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so I have 2 sons and a stepson, all ranging between 9 and 13 years old. So, and in the 3 of them, I see all different levels of attention to school, like of school, performance in school. But my message to them is always the same. And especially at that age, I said, at that age, they don't know what they want to do when they grow up. They have ideas, ranging from I want to go into the military to, I want to be a veterinarian, so on and so forth. But I said the most important thing with school is to do the best you can do to set yourself up for what you want to do later. Because you may not know. And when you get to that point and you look back and you say, wow, I wish I would have done a little bit better in high school, so that because now I decide I want to go to this college and maybe my grades aren't quite good enough, or so on and so forth. So my message is that there's a good chance, you heard from the 3 of us, we all took detours in our careers, and changed what we ultimately are doing now. So especially at a younger age, just do the best you can do with whatever it is you're doing, even if you don't like it, whether it be math, whether it be French class, whatever the case may be. The more attention you pay to it, and as we talked about with work ethic, there's a lot of things I do, and I'm sure Scott and Zane are in the same boat. There's a lot of things I do every day I don't particularly care for, but it's part of my job, and I have to do it. I have to do well at it. Otherwise, my company would not be very happy with it. So, do the best you can do and leave yourself, present yourself with a good options as you get out of high school. Whether it is you want to go directly into a manufacturing company, whether you want to set a path and plan on getting your PhD by a certain age, or if you do choose that you want to go into the military or a technical field, but leave yourself open. Prepare yourself that your education in high school is not something to hold you back.
That's great
Chris,
advice. Go ahead,
Chris,
Zane.
I'd just like to add one thing, and I agree totally with what Eric said. But one thing that's important too, and I had three daughters, and each kid is an individual and learns at their own pace and whatever. And something I always stress with them is, don't base yourself on whether you're a success or not just on a letter grade. Don't let the letter grade define you. Because let's say you get a C in math or whatever, it doesn't mean that's going to be the ultimate definition of yourself. There's other ways to improve and overcome and so forth. So people feel like, oh, I'm a C student or I'm a B student. I'm going to be limited on what I can do. That's not the case. Just like with Scott, given the hurdles that he overcame and whatever, you overcome those hurdles and with good work ethic and people skills, being positive, have a positive attitude, because people are going to want to be around a person that's positive, not negative.
Thanks. One essential skill I wanted to just touch on before we get ready to close out, and I also want to mention if there's any students who want to ask questions, we have a few more minutes on our call, and I know a lot of kids will be going back to a class if they jumped out during lunch to get on. Goal setting. One of the emphasis that we really talk about at CFES is setting a goal. So if you're a Scott McNulty and you want to be an engineer and you like mechanical things and you realize that's not my thing, you can still continue to set school goals and set smaller goals to start that can link up to your larger goals. One last thing for each of you real quick. What was one goal that you knew you had to set and you achieved it? How did you go about it? Scott, we'll start with you.
Oh, of course. So, right now we are, let's talk about what we're working on now. Right? Big growth company, very aggressive goals. We're getting investors on to help pay for some of the growth that we're doing, and setting extremely aggressive goals. A lot of it is, I keep talking back to perseverance, work ethic, trying hard. It's how do you set the goals up from the beginning that are possible, right? We talk about SMART goals, setting realistic goals, and if you have a 5-year goal, don't think about it as a 5-year goal, right? You can set that 5-year goal, but how do you break it down to smaller, more manageable pieces? So for me, in college, if it was getting through the first year, how do you get through the first year of math? And that way, if you find yourself off track or on track, you can also make adjustments to it, right? If you're looking at a 5-year plan or a 5-year goal, and you get off track in the first year, you just fail. How do you adapt to that? How do you continue down that path or pivot or make adjustments?
Okay, thank you. Zane.
The goal for me, professionally, high productivity, safety, and an environment that people enjoy to work. So low turnover. I think it's important that when I walk out on the floor, I see individuals that enjoy coming to work. They'll say, "Oh, I love coming to work," or "I like coming to work." I mean, we all have to work. You spend most of your life working, most of your adult life working. So life is short. Enjoy what you're doing. We prefer if we didn't have to work. There's a little fun, but seeing that you have to work, so making an environment enjoyable that people feel comfortable coming to work, and that leads to higher productivity and training, setting up a training metrics that you can follow to make everybody comfortable that they know what they have to know for safety, productivity, and everything.
Yeah. Creating that culture.
Yes.
Great.
Creating that culture.
Creating a culture.
Yeah.
Eric, any last words of wisdom on goal setting?
Yeah, so I'll take a little bit. These guys both had good points, but I'll take a little bit different approach. And just one bit of advice I'll give is don't always look at your goals as being something you have to accomplish totally on your own. so very, very few people I found in my career get where they are or grow all by themselves. So use the help of others. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to pull other people along with you in goals as part of teamwork. But don't try to take it all on your own. Use those around you, family, friends, support systems, to help you achieve this.
That's good. That's great advice. And it's actually a good way to kind of wrap things up. We're a little bit over. I don't see any other questions at this point, but I do want to tell our students if there is anything that you have questions about what you learned today. Certainly, you registered here. You have my email. You can get in, send me an email, and if you have any questions for our panelists, or if we have the opportunity once COVID is done and you want to do maybe a job shadow or see what a facility looks like, I certainly would be glad to work with these three companies and maybe do some visits. Or if you just want to ask them questions, I can get you connected. So, Zane and Eric and Scott, awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to our students and some of our teachers who are going to turn around and share this with their classes as it is recorded. Really appreciate you doing that today.
No problem. Glad to do it.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.